Hi everybody, welcome to Zoe's Treasures. My name is Tracy, and today we're going to talk about Whatnot fees. And actually, out of all the platforms, Whatnot has a fairly simple fee structure. I've prepared two examples I'm going to walk you through to illustrate this. We need to set some base understanding for these examples though. Let's assume on both of them that we are not talking about coins or electronics, as the commissions for those two categories are a little bit different. And this applies only to the United States. If you're an international viewer, some of these numbers may be a little bit different for you, so I definitely suggest going to the Whatnot help to look up the international figures. So let's start with our very first example. Let's say you sell an item for $10. That is the winning auction price. That's what the buyer is going to pay, $10. Then what gets added on to that $10 is tax. Based off wherever the buyer lives, the taxes are calculated. For this example, we're going to use $1.25. Then shipping. We're assuming this is a pound, so let's say $9.21, which is your 1 to 5 pound rate on Whatnot right now. So let's recap. We have a $10 item, $1.25 shipping, $1.25 tax, and $9.21 shipping. That comes to $20.46. We now are going to calculate the fees. There are three types of fees that Whatnot charges. The first fee is the 8% commission. That fee is charged on the original sale price of the item. In this case, it's $10. So $10 times 8% is 80 cents. The next fee is the 2.9% processing fee. That fee is charged on the total transaction price, so the $20.46. So 2.9% times $20.46 is 60 cents. The third and final fee that Whatnot charges is the 30-cent per transaction fee. That is a flat 30 cents, and it doesn't depend on any of the other numbers. So let's recap where we are. We made a sale for $10. We added on tax and shipping for a total the buyer is going to pay of $20.46. And from that $20.46, we're going to now start deducting the fees of 80 cents, 60 cents, and 30 cents. Which means we now have a net amount coming to us of $18.76. But wait, we don't really get that amount as a seller because we know we included the tax and the shipping. So let's subtract the tax and the shipping because that money stays with Whatnot. So we're going to subtract $9.21 for shipping and $1.25 for tax. And at the end of the day, our profit is $7.80. So the original sale was $10. After all fees, our profit is $7.80, which means we paid 22% in fees. Let's take a look at example number 2. We're going to assume it's the same amount, a $10 sale, so that we can really compare apples to apples. But what's different about this example is that the buyer's already paid $9.21 in shipping. And as long as that item weighs less than the 5 pounds, that they have not exceeded that 5 pound limit, they will not be charged shipping again. And that really affects your net profit as a seller. This also highlights the importance of encouraging your buyers to make multiple purchases during the show. So let's get back to our example. You made a sale of $10. Same tax, $1.25, because it's the same buyer, so it's calculated the same way. But shipping is now $0. So the total that the buyer is going to pay for their purchase number 2 is $11.25. Now let's look at the fees on that $11.25. The first one is the 8% commission. That stays at 80 cents. That's the $10 times 8%. The next one is the 2.9% processing fee. Now remember, that fee is charged on the total amount. In this case, that total amount is $11.25. So if we take $11.25 multiply that by the 2.9%, that comes out to 33 cents. And then you have your final 30-cent fee. That never changes. So if we recap, we had a sale of $10 with tax of $1.25, brought us to a total of $11.25 that the buyer is going to pay. The fees we are subtracting, 80 cents, 33 cents, and 30 cents, gives us a net of $9.82. Now, from that $9.82, let's subtract the shipping and the tax, because we know Whatnot keeps those two amounts. We already established that shipping was $0, so there's nothing going to come off for that. The tax was $1.25. So $9.82 minus $1.25 gives us our net profit of $8.57. We had a $10 sale. Our net profit is $8.57. That equals 14.3% we paid in fees, which is a pretty good difference compared to example number 1. So it really illustrates how that 2.9% processing fee really can affect the total outcome and the percentage of fees that you are paying, and why you really do want to encourage your buyers to purchase more than one item during the show, because subsequently your fees reduce as their shipping reduces. And that is What Not Fees, all wrapped up. Thank you so much for watching.